Take these broken wings, learn to fly. All your life, you're only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbirds singing in the dead of night. Ooh. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. To the light. Thank you so much, everybody. How are you feeling? Oh, are you feeling quite well? Are you feeling excellent? I am too. And I think it's because I'm in Sydney, which is one of the most outstanding places in the world to make music, of course. It goes without saying. And it's quite early in the morning for me, to be quite honest with you, but I'm so thrilled to be here. You sound absolutely amazing. I often feel when I come to Australia and I hear audiences that it's like driving a Mercedes or something, you know. It's like something in the water here, but this is a whole nother level. And I love all the different sections that we get to play with today. It's just an insane privilege. So thank you for having me. My name's Jacob. And I come from a small town not far from here called London. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna try and make sure I look at everyone, but I think I'll look at these guys for a bit, then I'll come and look at you. Is that all right? I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah, my name's Jacob, that's the first thing, and I come from London, it's the second thing. How many of you in this room would call yourself a musician? Very good. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that as well. Me too. Isn't music an amazing thing? Isn't it really something? What we just experienced, there were no words for. I didn't tell you what to do, just did it. And sometimes I ask myself, you know, how is this possible? What is this language at our disposal? What is it about music that speaks to everybody in the whole world without people needing to necessarily learn how it works or the sort of secret science behind it? And the more I've thought about this, the more I've realized something, which is that the reason music works is because it's made out of life. All the things that make life possible are the things that power music. Right? If you zoom in with your magnifying glass, you find mathematics, you find physics, you find history, geography, you find the human body and athleticism and language and spelling and syntax and leadership and empathy and all these things, friendship, relationship. And it all begins with listening first. And so it's no surprise that it's such a powerful thing. It's like a mirror, you know? When we listen to music or when we make music, which is really quite similar things to do, we're engaging with this kind of really sacred thing that no one really understands. But one of the things that we might do today, if you're up for it, is just talk a bit about what happens inside music, because there's so much power in it. And if I were to put it in an absolute nutshell, I would say it's all about tension and release. That's the whole thing. Something goes up, something comes down. Something goes left, something goes right. It's like the order of the world. When we look around the world and we understand things, that's the nature of it. That's the thing that's at play. For example, everybody understands the notion of high and low, right? Or big and small, or wide and narrow, or thick or thin, or rough or smooth. And these are the things that we're working with music. It's kind of extraordinarily simple, but the degrees to which you can scale these like really simple building blocks is kind of like mind befuddling. So that's what I spent a lot of my time thinking about. And when I was just a wee lad, I grew up very small. And the older I got, the bigger I got. And the bigger my curiosity got. And I think that any skill at anything begins with a deep curiosity. That's where it all starts. Being so desperately interested in something that you can't avoid but to explore it properly and deeply. And from both sides of the brain, right? The part which some people call the left part, which likes to put things in orderly lines and systems and things like that. And then the other side, which just wants to wiggle around, you know? And music speaks to both of those so beautifully. And so I felt as a child just so like magnanimously interested. I was just like, how can I wiggle these molecules in the air and then you feel something, or I feel something as a listener? How does that even happen? What's going on here? And the truth is we don't really know. So that's the end of the masterclass. Yeah, we don't really know, but there are some things that I've come to understand from the perspective of writing music, of listening to music, of playing music, improvising music, and I think fundamentally also from groups of people. They've taught me so many things about the nature of music and which parts of it are inherent. And I feel really lucky to get to explore this for a living. It feels like a very worthy thing to do, especially right now. So yeah. One thing I'll say before we jump into the deep waters is if anyone has a question at literally any time, just raise your hand and I'll do my best to answer it. Because I think it's so important, since you're all here early in the morning, that I provide what you want me to provide, not just what I seek to enforce. So honestly, and that goes for you as well. You just please contribute whatever you'd like to. And maybe I'll lay out a a sort of semblance that I perceive, and honestly just like bulldoze me with your challenges or your questions at any time. I grew up with a very special room in my life, as some of you might know, and this was a room, really a very, very small room, probably about the size of from the end of the piano to like where I'm standing right now, squared. It's like really not a big portal. But when you're a child, your imagination is as important as the real world, if not more important than the real world. You spend so much time in there. And so this little space became, have you read Where the Wild Things Are? You know about this book? Max goes into his little room and the walls disappear. And it purrs outwards into this infinite forest, and he can kind of make the world whatever he wants. So I loved that book as a kid. That's how it felt for me. I went to this little room, and the world became infinite. And inside this space, I sought to kind of collide particles, looking for these funny amorphous chemical reactions that we get when we listen to music, which are very mysterious and very clear. One of the nicest definitions of creativity that I've ever heard is that it's what happens when two things collide together. Makes so much sense. Like if you rewind to the beginning of us as a species, and we were hitting two bits of flint together or two bits of wood together to make a spark, those sparks were like little illumination devices, and they made so much possible. So for me, like that was the most kind of crude, rudimentary sense of creativity. Is like, Within music, there are so many ways you can do this. I've done it with like not just notes and things, but genres and sounds and words and all sorts of things. They're like ways of making alchemy, ways of making connection. And so I would live my life as a child, go out to school and run around and things. And then I'd bring the materials. I'd like collect little sticks and twigs of things I really liked. And I'd take these materials back to my room, and then I'd just like collide them and see what happened. It was really fun. Because we're all constantly like magnetizing things that we like. It's the most foundational question I think any of us can ever ask, especially if we make things, is what do you like? Because it all comes down to that. And there's something really like beautiful about liking something, which is that it takes no effort. You just like it. It's, that's for me, thank you. Like if I put a spoonful of sugar in your mouth or a spoonful of salt, you'd be like, it's like instantaneous. I think the same can be true with language and with music and with people and things. You just think, you're for me, And so as a child, I think I had a sense of this intuitively, but there was a funny juxtaposition I experienced between this kind of infinite inner world of the room and then the outer world of school and things like that. I've always felt that people are born to wiggle. So one of my foundational theories. That's why we're here, to just, Then comes this big world filled with people who actually would much rather that wiggly people were straight lines. Because straight line people are just easier to control, easier to predict, easier to just witness and hold together. And so a lot of the process for me at school was about, like, don't be wiggly, But I wanted to wiggle, man. How many of you are wigglers? Be honest. Okay, excellent. About 43, 44% of you. So, I'd say that music, one of the reasons why we need music so much right now and why we've always needed it, and it will forever be necessary, is because I think music is one of the most safe ways or spaces for people to wiggle en masse. And what happens when we wiggle, I don't know why I'm using this word so much, but I am, is it's like we get looser, we get softer. We don't take ourselves too seriously. And it's so easy, especially as a grown-up, to take yourself seriously. And a lot of things confirm that you must. Very serious. Life is, we're here, you're alive, it's very serious. But with music, sometimes the best things are actually the worst. It's just one of these funny little inverse languages, right? And, for example, since when were you moved by competence? Has that ever happened to you? I can't think of a single time I've heard someone say, man, his competence brought me to tears. It doesn't happen like that. Things that bring you to tears are imperfections. They're human things. So one of our primary jobs is to always leave room for a little bit of humanity within the kind of rigidity of the things that we learn and things that we study. Now, that's not to say we shouldn't be discerning. And it's also not to say that we shouldn't thoroughly understand the systems within our control and really get a command of the language. I would reinforce this idea that the thing that is going to move people is that combination between kind of fluency and command of language and actually like complete chaos and imperfection and just a raw sense of I'm just alive and I have no idea what I'm doing. And so the way that I have always found myself making music when I'm at my best contains both of those states. Sometimes people ask me, Jacob, when you get into a creative rut, what do you do about that? And one of the things I often say is, try and make the worst song in the world and see what happens. It's absolutely amazing the kinds of results that you get, because what happens is it's like a liberation from the confines that you're used to, and it doesn't get worse necessarily. It might get scruffier or more abstract, but actually it's a really useful gateway towards being really clear and being really clarified about the language that you're doing. You need to leave that room for that humanity to shine through. And another thing I'd say is that, in this day and age, our freedom, well, this has kind of always been true, but I think our freedom is in our unpredictability. And I say this in a world of algorithms and large language models and AIs. The whole premise is, if you do the thing I expect you to do, then you're within my control. And the truth is, you can be, disobedient or unpredictable in really subtle ways. It's about like timing, or it's about sound, or it's about placement, or in huge, massive ways, like, you know what I mean? Just like put a dubstep drop in your folk song or something. You do whatever you want. But the reality with music, especially right now in 2025, as a writer, as a singer, as an instrumentalist, as a whatever, you can do whatever you want. Literally. There's no limits. The only limit is what you can imagine. And what I'm seeing right now, as a human, is an increased reality of that. The better your question, the more thorough your question, the more complete your answer will be. And questions have always been more interesting than answers. And in some ways, the job of an artist is to pose really good questions, not to give really good answers. But I think we're in a time where we need to ask bigger questions, more high-resolution questions, and more challenging questions. And there are so many ways to ask these questions. We can ask them outright, but we can imply them with our language. We can bury them within our decisions and our choices, and in our freedom, in our wiggledom, you could say. And I think people need it so much in so many different ways. So yeah, I guess that's a premise that we can take forth into this day. But maybe I'll speak a bit about music specifically, what I've come to realize and what I've come to understand. I can have a sip of water and say hi to you. How's it going? That organ, by the way, is on. So if you turn around and play a note, it will go back. Can someone do that? Yeah. Come on. My man. Okay. Music, how does it work? Well, it's basically this. That's the thing. That's the whole thing. Now, that can be refined, okay? But the idea is you start in a place, say that was where, say we're in the key of E flat major. Can you sing E flat major? Thank you. So, okay, superb. So that's our home for now. You all know inherently the feeling of being in E flat major. It's like, okay, I'm home, I'm here, this is my key. So I know the instant localities from E flat major. One would be A flat major. Can you sing A flat major? Now sing E flat major again. Slowly. A flat. E flat. B flat. Now sing B minor. That's B minor. Okay, that was unfair of me. That was extremely ambitious. But the reason it's ambitious is because you know this sound is really far away from this sound. It's kind of like about as far as you can get, but completely different. So as a harmonist, as a writer, as a composer, and things, this is the language within my control. And I've got to say, as a child, the thing I'm most delighted in, above all elements of music, was, predictably enough, harmony. Just absolutely obsessed. Any harmony fiends here? Yeah? Anyone dislike harmony? Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Please leave. So, the whole thing, when I talk about this, it's about like, that's a very, very crude way of saying tension, release, you know? But the whole art form of improvising is controlled tension and release. And that's the thing. And you can do it with one note, you can do it with 2 notes, 3 notes, you can do it with 12 notes, 88 notes, and more than 88 notes. Now, just a bit of context, I suppose. I think the reason why a major chord, feels correct to us, feels natural to us, is because of something called the harmonic series. Now, who knows about the harmonic series? Anybody here know about this? Oh, that's like everyone. That's crazy. So I don't need to go into too much detail, but as you know, you have one in your mouth, and it goes. You know about this? Yeah. Now, I'm not the best throat singer, but I have a mouth. And what you hear in my mouth are all these little overtones. The first 5 overtones in the world are these. So that is in every note, inherently. Major chord. It's part of nature. So of course, when we sing in cathedrals or big spaces or whatever, when we go, oh, we're actually hearing, that's what we're hearing. It's like, oh, okay, it feels natural. Minor chords don't exist in nature. It's crazy, isn't it? It's just, that's not real. But they exist when you flip a major chord upside down. That's a minor chord. Have you ever realized that? So this is E flat major, and I flip this chord like this. That's the same relationships. Major third, perfect fifth. So this is the first time we encounter a minor chord in nature, really, is as an inversion of a major chord, a flip, a mirror image. So the way I think about major and minor is actually more like a spectrum than as a scale. You know, when I was growing up, I think I heard a lot of people talk about major. It's just like, that's major. Like, it's locked into the major scale, and like the more major scale you play, the more major it is. It's like, not really. This is major to me. That's very, very major. It's like the majorest it's possible to be. And then this is minor. Yeah? Fifths and fourths. Fifths are major, and fourths are fifths upside down, as you know. And they're minor. Think about it. This is C minor. There's the minor third. I just go up in fourths. And this is C major. There's the major third. And amazing things can happen when you embrace fifths and fourths as a harmonic basis of language. So, for example, if I play C minor for long enough, I get to the major third. That's the major third. C minor. Right? And if I play C major for long enough, I get to the minor third, right? So everything wraps around. There's a beautiful visual for this called the circle of fifths that some of you might be familiar with, but the idea is that bristling hatred. The idea is that basically, if you go in one direction, you always end up where you started, which is the beautiful cyclical nature of harmony. And so I think the idea that fifths create this levity, this upwards, this brightness, and then fourths are like the upside down fifths, and they create the darkness and the tension, is a really profound idea for us musicians, because it changes the way that we color in chords. How many of you would call yourself a jazz musician? Sweet. Yeah. So jazz musicians often think quite modally about music, about improvisation. So you think about, it's the idea of like Dorian, you know, or Lydian, right? Or whatever you want to do. So when I learned the modes, I recognized a thing. It was my opinion. It wasn't really a thing. It was my opinion, which is that Lydian is limited, and it's worth breaking, like most things. And so Lydian goes like this. Am I right? Yeah. So then I came up with this idea, super Lydian. What if we go? That's cool, right? Woo! Beautiful, bright sound. But I thought, why stop there? You can go forever. So you can do super, hyper, ultra, mega, meta Lydian. So I came up with this sound. Right? We're home. That's it. Wild. So then when I think about chords, I think about, I'm playing a song. Someone give me a song. Let it be. If I want to make my chords brighter, then I can pull these notes from the circle of fifths or from the upper structures or the lower structures of like nature, the harmonic series, and I can color in the song in that way. How can we do this? So it's like, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my world of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. So what I'm doing is, thank you. It's very kind of you. What I'm doing is I'm pulling and pushing and controlling the direction of travel of these notes, and recognizing that my palette is not limited to scales alone. It's limited to the whole spectrum of music. It's like you can be anywhere on this spectrum. It's so broad. You know, we were talking about those localities with E flat major earlier on. The idea of you have a chord 4, which is F, and you could say it's called chord 4, but really it's a feeling that we know about. You know about this feeling. Everyone knows this feeling 4-1. Oh, gorgeous. And everyone knows the feeling of 5-1, right? Especially classical musicians. It's a feeling we understand. And we all understand the feeling of 4 minor. Oh, beautiful. Devastating, in fact. And so there's this thing in classical music that you probably know about, which is called a cadence. You have what's called perfect cadence and a plagal cadence. And a perfect cadence is 5-1, and a plagal cadence is 4-1. And so in a lot of songwriters like James Taylor and Joni Mitchell, also a lot of gospel music, you hear a lot of 4-1. And in classical music, you have a lot of 5-1. But you also have what's called a 2-5-1, which goes, and you have what's called a 3-6-2-5-1, which goes in jazz, right? But you have the same thing on the other side of the circle of fifths as well. So you could have like, right? That's a plagal version of a 3-6-2-5-1, but it's the other direction, and I love it so much. It's such a different vibe. So you're arriving at C, but you start on A flat. Ah, that's so great. Beautiful. Keith Jarrett does this a lot, one of my favorite piano players in the world. And the idea is that you can control not just the notes in your chords, which is the first aspect, but also the way in which you arrive in a key. So if I go, well, let's go to D flat, because I'm bored of C. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. I could go, comes to me, speaking, or I could go, comes to me, speaking, or I could go, comes to me, speaking, to me, speaking, oh. Isn't that a colourful option? Oh, just a minor chord 4. And so don't sleep on plagal cadences, man. And not just plagal, but minor plagal. I'm serious, because to link it back to the original thing, it's about gravity. It's about gravity towards a key center, and on either side. And there's this principle that I really got excited about when I first heard it, which is called negative harmony. And I was about 19 years old, and one of my favorite teachers, a man named Barak Shmuel, he was like, hey man, have you heard about negative harmony yet? And I was like, what do you mean? Negative harmony? And basically what he was describing was the thing I'm talking about, which is the idea that you can flip any point of departure and arrival about the axis of the circle of fifths and convert anything perfect into plagal. You can plagalarize, which is different from plagiarize, your harmony. And so, for example, if you do this in the key of C, you technically rotate. There's a number of different axes and ways you can rotate chords. And this is a very theoretical exercise. This is not something I think about when I'm on stage or writing music, but it's a really, really fun place to discover chords. You flip around the axis of these two notes. And so a chord like G7, if you flip all those notes, then D becomes F, F becomes D, G becomes C, and B becomes A flat, which gives you this chord. Right? Literally the plagalized minor version. Everything that's perfect becomes plagal, and everything that's major becomes minor. It's the harmonic series flipped on its head. And that's the thing. Mother Mary comes to me speaking, or Mother Mary comes comes to me speaking. And you think, well, why does it work? Because actually the gravity is the same with both chords because of the way it's rotated. The B that wants to rise is the A flat that wants to sink. Isn't that so neat? Isn't that the neatest thing ever? And so some of you might be thinking this is so boring. What do I have to talk about this? And the reality is we don't have to talk about this. But the more ways you have of expanding your palette as a storyteller, as a painter, as a composer, improviser, musician, in all these different ways, the more command you have when you go out there and wiggle, right? You have at your disposal the emotional mechanisms, the understanding of the language to say, I know how to make you feel like that. Whoa, it's crazy. I know how to make you feel like this. I know how to make you feel like that. Or that. One of my favorite chords ever. What's the feeling of this chord? Well, it's arrived, partly, right? Kind of. It's kind of home. We're getting there. We can see home in the distance. But we're not fully there. We're not here. Right? We're just perching for a moment. And we might move away, but we're not sure. I love it. Because it feels like my life, you know? I know this feeling. I understand the feeling. I've lived this, you know? And then you can collage it with other things that you know about. Like I know about this feeling too. What's this feeling? Well, this is a foundational part of it. There's tension, and there's real beauty because of the fifths. Fifths are so clear and powerful, always. And then intervals like this. You go, it's like a little twist of the knife, right? And then perching again, right? Twisting again. Perching again. I know how that feels too. Those are weird days. You know? But as a harmonist, as a performer, harmony is in my mind, one of the main ways we have to command the experience of the audient. And I think it's one of the reasons why I so loved arranging music as a child. I take a song that everyone knows, like Let It Be or others, and I say, okay, I can take this song into a different place. I can transform the feeling of this melody, which you all know, it's the melody that's clear, but the harmony I get to command, and I get to say, okay, we're gonna go here now, we're gonna go here, or whatever. And when I was about 18, 19 years old, I started to pursue this irresponsibly, to the point where I removed the idea that there were even 12 notes. There's a fun exercise for this that some of you might know, some microtonal exercise, and it goes like this. Ba, 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 ba. Ba 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 etc. I used to love this game so much, so fun. Because here's my idea of a good time. Because here's the reality. There's no foundational reason why it needs to be 12 notes. You could divide an octave, which is foundational because of the harmonic series, into any number you want. I've tried. And 12 makes a lot of sense for certain reasons because fifths and fourths sound really good, which as we learned earlier is super important. But the reality is when you get into really complex harmony, you can slice between notes. You can get into the notes between the notes. And in these factions hide all sorts of amazing like emotional devices that are like really confounding. One of my favorite things I ever did with an audience, is just slight diversion, and speaking of gliding notes, was the last time I played a show here in Sydney, I said to the audience, we'll do it again now because it's super fun. So I said to the audience, sing a D major chord. Yeah. And then I said, now sing the note that's furthest away from the note that you just sang. Yeah. Why does that sound good? It's not part of the plan. And then I said, I'm going to stand here, and I'm going to walk here. By the time I get to here, you have to be on your original, on your D major note, but you have to start on your chaotic note, and you have to glide really slowly and really thoroughly. Okay, ready? So chaotic note. Sing D major again. Sing it loudly. Okay, remember that note. Sing it again. Okay, now sing the other note. Yeah. Great. I love that so much. And it was a complete experiment, but I loved it so much that I recorded actually that audience at the Enmore Theatre. Was anybody at that show? Yeah. Very cool. And I recorded that, and it opens Djesse Volume 4, which is this album I recently made. And yeah, I think there's something intuitive about cross-terrain is what I tend to call this, notes that go between the other notes. Sometimes you can modulate to those keys even, and I call that cross-terrain modulation. I've done that a couple of times, where you modulate from a key that does indeed exist in the textbooks to keys that just simply don't. And you can do it in really interesting ways, and we won't go super deep into this because I'll literally be here forever. But the idea is you can harness some of the harmonic series intervals which don't exist on the piano, and you can swing from those, you can pivot from those into other keys. So for example, if I sing a C and I go, you may notice that's out of tune. And that's because the seventh harmonic in my mouth is 31 cents flat. And a cent is, there are 100 cents in every semitone. Right, it goes, na 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 na, etc. And so, that's so sharp. If you're talking about just intonation, talking about justly tuned sevens. So the question I posed was, well, what happens if you play that harmonic series chord and then you take that note and you swing into that key? Whoa, crazy. And your ear doesn't even notice. You're just like, oh, of course. But it's wild. So fun. I did an arrangement of a song called In the Bleak Midwinter once, where I did this. And yeah, I think the third verse is in E. What can I give him, poor as I am, if, etc. And then the final verse is in what can I give, G half sharp. And I got there by swinging, using harmonic ratios. It sounds nerdier than it is. It's just like, it feels very normal. Of course you would do that. Please explore this. Like, I'm genuinely serious. In a microtonal revolution that we're seeing ourselves in, I would highly recommend this. But all to the end of, to sort of sum up this point, all to the end of a feeling that you can create. You get to be an illustrator of feeling, and you get to control that tension, and you get to control that release. And even if I go, you felt the tension. That's the kind of control that I love to have, not just in terms of tuning or harmony, but in terms of everything. And obviously we could talk forever about the whole of music, but harmony does feel like a particularly sound and interesting one to talk about, because I do think it's inherent, and I think that the way that some of the audience choir kind of experiments of mine have worked is because it's inherent. And I think it's inherent because of the harmonic series. And because all of us who have ever heard music and understood music as a listener, which is the first place you learn anything, we understand those relationships and those methods of navigation quite intuitively. So it bypasses our defense mechanisms and we just feel. So don't underestimate your power to make these little choices that provide tension or provide spice or flavor or whatever it is in the things that you're making. And I think that if I hadn't gone to the absolute edge of my obedience as a harmonist as a child, or like the reasonable chords. Like, I really tried to break everything. Perfect timing. But I did. And the results were often very strange, but definitely explore that. Definitely explore that feeling of going between, of digging into the thing. Now, some of you might think, well, like, Jacob, I'm not really a harmonist. I'm more of a flautist. Or I'm just a mere violist or whatever. And not the violist of mere, by any means. Who's a violist? No one? Thank you for being here. That is fantastic. Yeah, so some people who play instruments that have one melody, monophonic instruments, often are a little bit allergic to the idea of thinking about chords, because it's not necessarily, as much as I would like, part of the training when you learn to be a musician is, it's not just what note are you playing or how you're playing it, or is it forte or piano or whatever, it's what's the context that you're in. You know, if I say sing a G, and you're this G, that's a very different G from being this G, or this G, or that G, you know? So many G's to beat. Jeez Louise. So, yeah, as a melodist, I think it's your responsibility in some ways to understand harmony and where you sit, because the control you have changes the whole narrative of the thing. I think this is especially true for singers, because when you sing a note, you really are a note. That you become that note in a very particular way, and obviously every instrument is an extension of the voice. But one of the things I learned most from doing a cappella arrangements, I've always been obsessed with the human voice, but one of the things I really learned was how much control you have as one voice over the overarching palette of the thing. And I've done vocal arrangements that are kind of very layered, very dense and layered. You know, like 80 voices, 80 of my own voice on top of itself. And what you learn from doing things like that, as much as I have, is how much difference it makes if you go, for example, say I'm recording, say I'm recording that as a vocalist. If I go like 80 times, it will just sound like, you know. But if I go you know, again and again, it really is cool. It layers up in such a beautiful way, and it layers well because of the imperfections, again, because of the parts that aren't the same. Unison is not sexy, sometimes. You can quote me on that. Especially when you're overdubbing your own voice, because the more kind of wiggly imperfections of the parts, the more it feels like D'Angelo, you know? When he was recording Voodoo and everything was on tape, and he did all those overdubs on the root. Who's a D'Angelo fan here? Yeah. Sick. Yeah. Yeah, D'Angelo was one of the first people I ever heard to really layer his own voice on top of itself in wiggly, random, like, soulful ways. Bobby McFerrin was another, but yeah, the difference between going and is huge in that context, because when you layer that up, it's like it completely changes the color of your painting, you know, or you know, a lot of the time when I record a voice in an arrangement, I'll go, this is the mic I'm recording, I'll go like that. And the reason is because I don't want to hear the note appear. I just want to feel the note being there. I'll go, you know, or sometimes I do, like, or whatever it is. You can scatter things around, but the reality is the control you have as a singer, but really as to say all instrumentalists, is so immense, and a lot of the choices you make are notatable. You can't write them out on sheet paper and say, here you go, sing this, because how am I really going to notate the difference between and, you know, I could say like sing breathly, but then people go, you know? So it's like such precise things, but I learned so much from recording alone in that little room of mine about the power of these nuances and these choices. And obviously I could go on and on and on and on, which I won't, but it matters. It matters to have that kind of command and control question.
Sorry, whilst we're on this topic, I've been really eager to ask, when you're arranging vocal harmonies, how much of it do you allow to just flow like a river and just follow like a melody and then stack melodies that you enjoy? And how much of it, oh sorry,
Yes, all good.
Sorry, I just had the audacity to start.
Totally fine, don't worry.
I've just been so eager to ask you this question that as soon as we landed on this topic, I was like, this is my chance.
Brilliant.
Yeah, when you're stacking vocal harmonies and arranging crazy stuff like Bridge Over Troubled Water, like, are you coming up with a melody or a harmony line that feels intuitive and nice, and then you're like, oh, I could do this on top, I can do this on top, and how much of it are you like marking like a landmark of I want to arrive here on this chord? How much of it is as approached by feeling, and how much of it is chords? I don't know if you get that question a lot.
Absolutely, yeah, no, it's a really good question. And actually I haven't really been asked that, so that's lovely to get to answer it. audacity forgiven. I had the audacity to eat a banana while you were asking that question. It's a combination, honestly. I've learned this over the years. At first, with vocal arranging, I did used to sort of ordain everything. I used to plan everything out. I even wrote the arrangements out when I was like 17, 18. I would write them in Sibelius. You know. And now, nowadays, I have more of a hybrid approach. I think if there are foundational arrival points, I tend to anchor those in, like bases, but I don't necessarily plan how I'm going to get to the place. So the first thing I do is it's like a very vague sketch. Like, okay, kind of want to start here, kind of want to end here. Maybe we could go here, 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 here. Okay, cool. Level 1 done. Level 2 is to go in one level deeper on that like resolution. It's almost like an 8-bit computer that becomes 16, 32, 64. It's like you go piece by piece. And once I've gone through maybe a couple of layers of that, so like basic arrival points, ish, kind of, I could maybe do this. Then I start recording. And I know now enough about that process, and I've done it enough times to know that as I'm recording, I'm going to have better ideas than I did in the planning process, you know. So I'll sing, and I'll say, oh, actually, no, there's a note that's missing, you know. So in bridge, for example, sail on, silver girl, sail on by, and you wanted to open out from one note. It's going to shine. That was an arrival point I put in. All the dreams are on the way. See how they shine. And I didn't know how I was going to get back to A flat major from there. I remember that I was singing. I thought I'll just move this part up a little bit, and then I'll be. You know. So it happens like that a little bit. And you know, sometimes, for example. Oh, if you need a friend, I'm safe. Right? That even that chord. I might think, okay, I'll kind of do this chord, but then as I go through, I realize that I could sing that note's missing on, and maybe it's missing on, you know. And I usually, if I'm honest, I go like 1 or 2 steps over the line of density, and then I'll be like, I don't actually need this and this and this. But I always go to the fullest extent of the thing I imagine, just to check in case it's better or not. Yeah.
Are you singing like a passage? Like, are you singing multiple notes, like a phrase, and then like layering phrases, or do you feel like you're like layering one note at a time as you go?
It's totally fine. Yeah, no,
so sorry.
I heard the question. It's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a process, I think, of little sections that add up to big ones. I tend to record a version of the melody to tide me over, and then as I go through each section, I'll color bits in. I'll usually start with the lower voices, because then I have the sort of like counterpoint thing strong. And as Bach still knows, if this motion is strong, you're kind of okay. So it's like I'll have the melody there, and then I'll do a little bit of bass. It honestly depends. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll do this whole section and I'll layer it up, and sometimes it's like, I just want this one chord to sound really good, or whatever. It's really scruffy. Like I have no real organization about my process. There's no color coding, there's no labeling. It's just like, you know, it's really, really chaotic. But what happens is this kind of painting emerges that you get to refine all sorts of things, and you know, sometimes you record it and you're like, I think the notes are there, but it just doesn't feel good yet. And that's when I go in and replace my ooh, which I sang in as an experiment with ooh, and I layer that up, and it becomes like 3-dimensional. So there are lots of different methods of the process that matter, and one of them is sound and tonality and breath and all things, and that's separate from the notation part. But I'll usually have a melody, and if there's sketching beforehand, I'll just use the like Logic electric piano. Classic electric piano is what it's called. And I'll just like sketch the things in ish, and then fill them out one by one. But it's quite a non-ordained process overall. The first arrangement I ever did that there was no plan for whatever was an arrangement of a song called You and I, which is a Stevie Wonder song. And that was just like, I just sang a note with no plan, sang a note with no plan. I just got to the end of the arrangement, and I just thought, okay, it's done. And that taught me a lot, actually. I haven't really done that since so much, but that was just like, what if I don't plan anything, like what's going to happen? And and it ended up being quite an education for me. One more question, then we'll move on. Yeah.
I don't know if I have the audacity, but...
it would appear that you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, thank you. You briefly mentioned it, but artificial intelligence, so I'm a bit fearful as a songwriter about it in the creative process. Do you think it's detrimental, or does it have uses that you know of? Or
It's such an important question. I guess I'll start by saying my personal intuition with anything tech, and this has been since I was really small, has been embrace it and mess around with it and try and break it, and then it will show you itself. So, like, I got a little Casio keyboard when I was 5 with 100 rhythms, 200 sounds, and I would go through, all that stuff. I loved it. And I didn't take it that seriously. I didn't think it was a real drum kit, but I knew that I could learn some stuff from it, so I would wiggle around and try and do my best and stuff. And as I grew up and I got older, kind of more and more, you could say, like, high-resolution tools have existed, and Logic, for example, and I built instruments like the harmonizer, which is one such thing as this. AI is kind of a different family of beings. It's a huge brain, which is an order of magnitude besides these other things. But I think I have a similar instinct, which is like, ugh, big brain, whoa, what's it going to do? So I spent quite a lot of time trying to bully it into being interesting. Because by nature, AI must be mediocre, because it's trained into oblivion to obey every command. And obviously no creative source is ever fully obedient, as I kind of said before. So to me, it reinforces the necessity for human perspective and human toolkit and human enunciation of request. And the human is the questioner in the equation rather than the answerer. I don't think, I'm not worried as a songwriter about my job being taken away, but I do think we need to be responsible with it. I think we need to try and be a part of its progression rather than sitting outside of it. Maybe that's one thing I'd say. I think the fear is completely logical and makes a lot of sense, and it is absolutely insane. Like, every day there's a new thing that's just serious, But the funny question that it poses artists is, well, if spectacular becomes ordinary, if anyone can render something spectacular, wow, beautiful, then what? Like, what's after spectacular? Like, there's more than that. It's like the thing with competence. It's like AI is so competent, it's like nauseating. So what else? What else is there to do? There's so much else to say. And human beings are the only ones, I think, who are going to see value in those kinds of imperfections. And audiences feel them immediately. It's like there's no resistance. Of course, you're a human. I relate to you. I trust you. The idea of trusting. Can we generate these songs and ideas using AI with the help of AI? I think in part, there are ways to wake our minds up to interesting things that we wouldn't have imagined if our questions are good. And also, I think AI is fatally uninteresting in a lot of creative ways. And so, at least for now. So, I would say, don't lose hope, because AI is way too proficient and infinite to be relevant or interesting to people. People have limits, and that's why we'll need them forever. Because if we're talking about relating to people, then people need limited people. We need people with edges and like weird, waggly imperfections to believe in, and I just don't think music's about competence. I think it's about other things. I'm pretty open-minded about it all. I don't see a reason not to be interested. And I kind of, as I said before, I think any real perspective or skill within a particular area comes from curiosity. So our job, our mandate is to be curious. We must be interested. We must wiggle around and see. We must ask challenging questions to the people who are making the AI, if we can, and to the AI itself. And we'll harvest the stuff that is wiggly enough for us to relate to, and then we will persevere with those things, and we will always need each other.
Right, thank
you. Yeah, cool. No problem. I need to go pee. Speak amongst yourselves. I'll be back in 1 minute. Thank you. That was a good pee. We don't have a huge amount of time remaining, and I'm actually inclined to answer some more questions. If people have questions, I'd love to hear them. I'm definitely going to take one from the back. Yes. Yes, you. Wait, hold that thought.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
I find that as a songwriter, I struggle with having too many ideas, and I think that you can definitely probably relate to that. How do you, I guess, not use all of your ideas in one piece, and how do you know when a piece is finished?
I've never experienced that. It's funny, I said once, and I'm going to face these guys, I'm sorry guys. I said once in an interview, I suffer from creative infinity syndrome. And now, if you go on Google and you type my name, it will be like, what condition, it's a recommended question, what condition? What conditions does Jay Collier suffer from? And it says creative infinity syndrome. So I've been doing a few interviews in the last few days here in Sydney to promote the shows at the end of the year, and people literally ask me, so talk to me about your suffering, you know. Tell me about this. Well, tell me about this condition, and how did it come about? Is it contagious? You know, things like this. But the reality is, it's a term I coined for this feeling I really experienced strongly as a child, which was of looking into the horizon of a creative idea and seeing no limits, which actually is not necessarily a good feeling, because it's like nothing's holding you together. You think, I could just fall in any direction, you know. So I think over the years, I've sought out successful or effective containers for myself. And I know I'm a human, so I'm going to continuously generate ideas against whatever is presented to me with the language that I have. But my main job is not to focus on the ideas, it's to focus on the containers. You know, so Djesse, as a 4-album conglomerate, was one of those containers to me, and it was a way of sorting ideas into sonic categories. It was like, okay, if it's big, orchestral, colossal, it's volume 1. If it's acoustic and miniature, it's volume 2. If it's more electronic and strange, it's volume 3. And volume 4 became about the human voice. But these were ways of me holding my ideas together. It can be a hard thing. Like I really do deeply, honestly relate to what you're saying. And I think your job is to learn in what creative environments you feel the most filled and you feel the most held together. Because for me, the way I think about it is there's so much energy flowing all the time. And my energy is so kind of apparent that I can literally just do this all the time. So my job is to sort of hold it. If I can just make a container for it like this, then all the answers are in there. And so that's the best thing I can do for myself, is learn ways of holding my energy together, which is a really different, that's not a musical question. It's about life, it's about being a person, and it's about what your edges, and it's about your energy. It's just a different vibe. So my personal solutions come more from that area of interest, I think, than like a musical one. Musically speaking, I've tried many different ways. Sometimes I'll say, Jacob, please behave. Follow the line, this is the line, stay in the thing. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. And I've also said, okay, just be infinite, do whatever you want. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I think you know when something is finished, because not if it's good or pristine or polished, but if it's the best, if it feels the most itself it's possible for it to feel. That, to me, is a good metric for something being a finished or complete idea. It's not, is it sparkling clean, or is it over-engineered or into oblivion. It's does it still contain the essence of itself, and is that essence able to shine? So I know myself well enough now to know that when I first have an idea, it will go bang, 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 bang. And then if I can hold my energy together like a pool, then other ideas will come in and collide and make sparks, and then I make a bigger container, and then it makes sparks. And at some point, I stop making containers and I utilize what's already there. So, you take something that exists here and you apply it here, and you take this and apply it here, like that. And it's like you finish your painting. But a really important skill I had to learn was how to finish a thing. And one of the reasons why I did Djesse was because I needed to learn that. So I thought, well, if I make 4 albums, then I'm gonna have to finish a lot of music. So then I'll have to figure it out. And I kind of did, but it's hard. But yeah, you have to know here if the thing you're making is the thing that it wants to be, And again, it's not about if other people like it or if it ticks a bunch of boxes. It's just if it's the right thing. Like I wrote a song once called "The Sun Is in Your Eyes." It's a little guitar song, and I recorded it on my phone just for safekeeping. And I thought, when I go home, I'll record it and make it good and finish it up, whatever. And went home and tried to record it, and it just sucked so bad. And so I released the voice memo, and that taught me a load of things. And one of those is that sometimes the raw, unfettered version of your idea is in fact the most complete. And other times you start with an idea and you scale it and grow it and orchestrate it, and there's a choir and whatever, and then that's the final version of your thing. But only you will really know when your thing is done. That makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Very good. Very good. Very good. I'm going to take one from the balcony. I'm going to go with you, sir, in the pink jumper, right there. Now hold that thought.
Thank
Thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to ask, you talked a bit about bringing things together and making alchemy and colliding things in creativity.
Yeah.
And I'm really taken by that idea, but I find also there's a lot of alchemy that I also really like and want to recreate. And so how do you, especially because I'm a jazz student, how have you gone about studying people who have made this amazing alchemy that you want to take from and replicate, but then also bring your own creativity and alchemy and music into that?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think, first of all, when it comes to studying a person, and this could be instrumentalist or a writer or arranger or producer, it's important to study them on different levels. So you can't just study them from this perspective. So, for example, if I transcribe somebody's solo, which I used to do when I was a child, I'd learn a Jarrett or a solo or a Cannonball solo, or whatever it was, and it was so much fun. Phineas Newborn Jr., whatever it happened to be. And it would be an amazing exercise to zoom into the notes and get comfortable with the nuance and climb inside. And it's easy to lose perspective in that way because you kind of end up doing this. And I know this as a creator too. One of the reasons why it's hard to finish ideas actually is because I sometimes can only look at them from this perspective, and I need to put it on when I'm over here, like feeding Jethro, or like doing something different, or in the car, or whatever. So I think to study someone, you can study from here. Oh, how does it feel? If I close my eyes, if I squint, what's the ish? What's the broad, the kind of the ish, the wiggly idea? And then you zoom in and you think, oh, what are the individual notes? But I find myself kind of magnifying glassing in the sense of, I'll zoom in and then I'll zoom out. I'll zoom in and zoom out. And that to me is a complete form of study. When you're studying how the emotional center is moving and feeling, and also how the language center is moving and feeling, and both things. I find my own creativity inevitable. I don't find it something I need to necessarily design, but I do think I need to make room for it, and I need to observe it. So, for example, if I'm trying to learn a solo from somebody, then I will inevitably just want to do my own thing. I want to break the thing, whatever. And so I'd rather than say, you're not allowed to do that, Jacob, I'll watch myself do it and lean in and explore what I'm doing, and then bring myself back, bring the intention back to the thing. And there's always a mixture of the two sides. Someone once told me, if you really want to build a language with improvising in jazz, you should compose your own solos, and not to play live, but as an exercise. Take a standard, whatever it is, and write your dream solo. What you'll learn as a composer, because improvisation is like composition in real time. Composition is stop time improvisation. You learn what you like, and when you know what you like, you actually get to build a language out of your own DNA, not just out of the DNA of people you love. But I find that if there's a mixture of those approaches, some input from people you love and respect, including people that you don't like very much or don't really understand, people from different walks of life, and also you always lean into your own language, let it flourish and flower, and weeds can grow, whatever, and then you harvest the things that you like and build them into your language. I think you need both sides of that. And there were some people I knew when I was younger who were in the jazz world who would learn everything they played from other people, and you could tell, because it was just like, okay, that comes from this person, that comes from this person, but there's an essence to a person, when it comes to language, that where you know if something is really belonging to a person, and often the way of revealing a language is to go to the most extreme aspects of that language and really lean into that. So do a whole solo on one note, or do a solo in two parts, or only play really quietly. All these ways of subverting yourself. And I think the more you subvert, when I talk about alchemy, a lot of it is like about creating the conditions for a more creative idea to come through. And a lot of that is about subverting the expectation of what you expect. So if I can only play loudly from the first note of my solo, and I cannot play any quiet notes, or I start loud and I have to get progressively quieter throughout my solo, I'm definitely going to play things I've never played before. So I think I always enjoy designing containers for myself to be unpredictable. It goes back to the question actually about AI almost. It's like we're free from these systems if we can be unpredictable, including our own large language models that exist in our brains. That's how we become interesting, is by overstepping the line. And sometimes you need to overstep a line for it to be revealed. You don't know a line is there until you've crossed it. So cross all the lines. And as you do it, build a language of the parts of that you enjoy and that feel like useful tools, and then build from there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no props. We're going to take one from the very top, and I don't know how we're going to... Oh, there's a microphone. Okay, great. I'll take... Yeah, you, sir, there. Yes, closest to... Yes, great.
Thanks.
Howdy. Good day.
I'm a harpist and composer, and I'm obsessively fascinated with harmony. And so I was wondering, I often think about this idea of like a harmonic world and these figures that have introduced harmonic worlds and championed them, like Bach or Schoenberg or, arguably Debussy, etc. And you've mentioned like your work that goes beyond 12-tet tuning. I'm wondering, do you think that there are still harmonic worlds that we haven't heard or experienced yet, and can they or will they be integrated into the musical canon at some point?
Yeah, great question. Yes. Yes, the answer is yes, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. I think we will do what we've always done, which is to build on what's come before and take it into new frontiers, and you might be some of the people to do it. Because I think there are unlimited ways to combine things. I think there's a myth about being original, and the myth is that to be original, you have to do something that's never been done before. You have to come up with new stuff. I don't think that to be original, you need to be new. I think you need to combine old things in new ways. And that goes for harmony very much. I don't need to make new notes up. I can just recombine the notes that are already there. And there are infinite notes, of course, so lucky me, and you. But yeah, the reality is you don't have to reinvent the whole wheel to be meaningful or to be original, be new. You just need to say, okay, I'm going to squint my eyes. This is how I see it. And then throw the ball into the room, and then the ball will be carried on, and it will keep going, until the next person captures it. We're all collaborators in that way. We're all building the world together. So that's the short answer that I'd say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. One more question. I'll get one from the middle. You, sir, in the blue. Yes, that's you. No worries. Okay, wait for the mic.
Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I can see how important your mother has been in your life.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, what is like the greatest lesson that she ever taught you, and something that really sticks with you, like, whether that's every day when you're writing music or just like a philosophy that she's taught you.
Yeah,
really
brilliant. Oh, thanks for asking this question. I have a very cool mother, Susie Collier, shout
do.
out. And she is an incredible musician. She's an amazing violin player, incredible conductor. But I would say none of the important lessons I learned from her were musical lessons. They were about people, energy, and permission. So I used to sit in like a chair like you're sitting in and watch my mum stand here when I was 2 or 3, and she would be like this, and she'd be going, rum, and the musicians would go, And I thought, it's literally like casting a spell. Like, how are you doing this? What's going on? And like when you're a child, a lot of the lessons you learn are kind of through osmosis more than through study. It's like you learn them through play, not through study. But I played with the principals around her. Students would come into the house. Oh, it's been a long day, and then they'd leave. Oh, like this. How did you do that? And I used to sit on her lap and watch her teach too. The thing I learned, I think I would say the ultimate nugget, I would say, is as a teacher, as a performer, as a parent, you are only as powerful as you make other people feel. That's it. So if you can give people the feeling that they matter and that they're a part of the thing you're building, then they'll remember that feeling forever. There's a beautiful Maya Angelou quote that says, people won't remember what you say, they won't remember what you do, but they'll remember how you make them feel. And she's a prime example of that. She gives you a feeling. Actually, you give you the feeling. It was always there, but she creates the conditions where that feeling is revealed. And that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And so, I never thought I'd be a conductor when I was small. I didn't think, I'm going to grow up and conduct orchestras. But I accidentally became one from the stage when I started to realize how much power there was in people singing together. And a lot of the principles I draw on are those foundational lessons. I call them lessons, but they were looser than that. But they were lessons around permission. If I give you permission to go, and I'm not afraid of that, I'm not afraid of your freedom. It's like a different leadership model, I think, than we're used to. The idea of giving you the autonomy and the authority to go and take it wherever you want to go, but I'm able to hold you in a place together. That feels important. And again, in music, it's one way in which it can express itself really well, but there are so many other ways besides. And obviously, as a kid, I was brought up by her, so she was able to create those conditions in other areas of my life besides music, which is so amazing. And now we do gigs together, and she'll come and conduct the orchestra, and it's amazing because I get to be within that organism that I witnessed as a child. And we've spoken about it since more. how did you do that? Like, what was going on? And she'd say, well, this is how I think about it, and all of that. But yeah, we're all introverts in my family, me included. But I think my mother was very comfortable with people, and I'm also quite comfortable with people, and I think I've learned how to scale my inner world into the outside world comfortably, not like or something, but like comfortably because of the way that I saw her be in the world, if that makes sense. Yeah, very good indeed. Should we do a quick song to finish? Before the song, I will say, I know we need to go because there's like exams in this room, isn't it? 2 minutes, literally 2. There is, on campus, a little amphitheatre area. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's got little...
It's actually the
Royal Botanic Gardens. There's an area where I think a couple of hundred people can hang out. If you're not busy, and you want to meet me at the Botanical Gardens at 12:30, we could do a bit more singing, a bit more circle singing in there. I just know we need to be kicked out of this room very soon. So yeah, you're welcome to join for a brief shindig. But also, just thank you so much for coming and for singing so beautifully, for asking such intelligent and lovely questions. It's so nice to see you and to meet you. I'll see you in December, and maybe on the gardens. But to everyone here and here, thank you so much for having me, everyone. Thanks very much.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in this world of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Sing it. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Speaking words, let it be. All the broken-hearted people living in the world agree there will be one side, let it be. Though we may be parted, there is still a chance that we will see. Speak words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, there will be an answer
Thank you so very much, everybody. See you very soon. Lots of love.
Hey now, where we go? Days on the wing train. Down in the hollow, playing here a new game. Laughing and a jumping, hey, hey. Skipping and a hopping. In the misty morning forest, our hearts enjoying their rhythm. A brown-eyed girl, you and me, my brown-eyed girl. Whatever happened to Tuesday and so slow? Going down the old mine with a transistor radio. Standing in the sunlight laughing, hiding round the rainbow's wall. Skipping and a hopping all along the waterfall. A brown-eyed girl, you and me, my brown-eyed girl. Do you remember when we used to sing sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la? La-dee-da. So hard to find my way now that I'm all on my own. I saw you just the other day. My, how you've grown. Cast my memory back there, Lord. Sometimes I'm overcome just thinking about it. Making love in the green, green grass, all along the stadium with you. A brown-eyed girl, you and me, my brown-eyed girl. Do you remember when? I know you remember when. Do you remember when? To sing sha la 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 la, sha la 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 la. Sing it louder. Sha la 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 la. Sha la 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 la. Sha la 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 la. Sha la 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 la. Sha la 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 la. Oh, sha la 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 la. Oh, sha la 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 la. Sha la 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 la. Go! Oh, 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 sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. dum 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 sha la 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 la. Oh oh oh, go sha la 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 la. La-dee-da. This is the perfect shape to try a thing which is called circle singing. I don't know how many of you know about circle singing. It's really good fun. It can go for hours, and we don't have hours, but we have minutes. The way circle singing works is you have a certain number of groups. I'm going to say 4. So we'll say, here's a group. Everybody in this group here. Raise your hand if you're in this group. Yay. Okay, then this group here. Everyone here. Raise your hand if you're in the group. Outstanding. And then this group to here. All of you. Hi. And then this group is everyone here. Yes, sir. And all of you at the back as well, you're in the group. Okay. So, circle singing is like a really, it's an ancient tradition, ancient song tradition. And the way it works is that a leader, in this case me, for a brief time, will stand here and I'll give you things to sing and you loop them. It's like you're like a looping machine. And then I'll nominate someone, I'll just pick someone out of the audience and then you take my place. And then you can edit whatever I'm doing and change it into what you want to do. And then you can nominate somebody else in turn, and it goes from there. And then at some point, I might just jump back and like finish it. Okay? Does that sound like a good time? Cool. Don't be nervous. It's like literally chill. It's totally fine. Sorry. Let's go. Zumba, 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 zumba. Ba-da, 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 ba-da. Okay, who wants to have a go? Anyone? Come on in.
Chicka. Wop.
Da